Hi, I'm Dan Konjorski. Welcome to Life on the Bench podcast. Please subscribe to Life on the Bench podcast and pathfindermediagroup.org. It'd be great to have you have your subscription and for you to begin to follow us as we move from here. A lot of good things are coming our way in the future podcasts. I want to continue my discussion from last podcast, last session, where I began to talk about music from the decade of the 70s. The number one song from the 1970 was Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. And as I said last week that I would bring in where it was where the Bridge Over Troubled Water, where they were inspired from. And I believe it was Simon who had written the song, and he was inspired from gospel music, believe it or not, by the Swan Silverstones, by their song, Mary, Don't You Weep. And I wish we could play that song, but we don't want to violate any copyright. So from there, I want to talk about the number one album in 1970. Yes.
We can link it though, as long as we're not.
Okay, thank you. And you can include that conversation in this.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about the number one album in 1970. The number one album was Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water. And the songs that included on that album were The Boxer, Bridge Over Troubled Water, El Condor, Pasa, If I Could. It's Cecilia, which I love that song, and Keep the Customer Satisfied, and Baby Driver, and I think a few others that I don't have listed here. But a couple of these songs, they're just, Simon and Garfunkel was a dual singers that were folk music folk music, and I really enjoyed their kind of music. It's very reflective. For instance, the song Cecilia. And in reality, that's, not in reality, but in reflection, that is a lament about a capricious lover causing both joy and sorrow to the singer. But it talks about a relationship with highs and lows. Simon himself said it might refer to Saint Cecilia, and this is an interesting trivia. Simon said it might refer to Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music, possibly reflecting the fleeting nature of inspiration and the absurdities of pop culture. And I thought that was very interesting. To bring that out, and I read that through some search engines on the website or on the web, and I thought that was very interesting. The absurdities of pop culture and the fleeting nature of inspiration from pop culture. I think about music. I think about how music impacts us. And there is a sort of a recent movie out. And I'm a moviegoer. In some ways, I wouldn't totally admit to this, but I'm going to, and I'm online, and I can be called to the table to it, certainly. But that's okay. I don't think I did anything wrong. But I saw this movie called Sinners. And it was a recent movie that really, in a sense, part of the theme was it was about music. And it was about, believe it or not, it was about sin. It was a movie that made you think. Some people say it's a horror movie, it's a vampire movie, but they don't come in until at the end of the movie. Now, would I recommend it for children? No, I wouldn't. But the director was Ryan Coogler, who I think also was involved in the Black Panther. And it starred one of the top actors in today is Michael B. Jordan. He played two characters in that movie. And the reason I'm bringing this up in light of music, in light of how music impacts our culture, is that Hollywood also impacts our culture. This movie called Sinners really had a wonderful scene in it where it discussed music and how music impacted certain cultures around the world as it went from throughout the last century or two, in a sense, and you can see the actual progression of how music was, um, how it interacted with culture, even from the continent of Africa through America today, and it was a wonderful montage, if you will, of the historical nature of how music impacted, again, culture, especially pop culture. Um, and in fact, I would, for the deep thinkers out there, I would probably recommend the movie because it makes you think about sin and the choice to sin or not, or to live in a godly way or in an ungodly way, or how to live life, if you will. Um, in that sense, it started out with this young. I'm not going to go beyond this point because I don't want to ruin the movie for you, but it started out with a choice this young man had to make, and I'll leave it at that. And you watch the movie and you can see the choice he made in the end. And then another song of the album, the number one album in 1970, again, Bridge Over Troubled Water, was El Condor Pasa, okay, in parentheses if I could. This song was a call for freedom, a control over one's life, a defiance against oppression, the themes of personal struggle and desire for liberation from difficult circumstances. So as you can tell, this whole album, in a sense, and I can go over some of the other music and we can talk about that. I am not prepared to at this point, um, but I just want to encourage you that music does impact us, and it does impact how we think. And you take, if I would have, honestly, and it's very possible, and I've seen people do this in life. I have observed from a distance how people were stuck in a certain decade of their life. And for them, it was all about music. For this one person I'm thinking about, it was all about music. And this man could really quote the lyrics of the popular music in his culture of the time, but he was also stuck. And he also got stuck and addicted for 13 years during this period of time in his life with cocaine. And, um, and music had solely impacted his life in the sense that he's still into it, he still listens to it. And the irony about this is he sent me a song about God recently. And I listened to the song, and what inspired me about what this guy sent me was that this song is making him think about God. And so it's sort of inspiring me as I seen how this man has grown from where he was when I first met him to where he is now in life. So again, the music of the 70s has impacted a generation. And again, I like Simon and Garfunkel's music, and I like other music from the 70s. And as we move forward in Life on the Bench, we're going to go over some of this music to even a greater extent to what I am doing today. Um, but I want to read something that I think is important, and I want to leave you with this encouragement today as we end this this podcast. So in Galatians 5:1, it says, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. So what I mean by this, and what I think the scripture means is this, is that in my past before Christ, I listened, or I didn't listen because before Christ was in my teen years. Even outside, after Christ in my 10 years, after my teen years, I would listen to some of this music and it would impact me to a greater extent than it does now. I mean, I would literally tear up thinking about the past. I think our past can be a burden. It can be a way of a linkage to a burden or a slavery to our past, if you will, before Christ. So I want to read this and encourage you all that, yes, music, pop culture is a form of entertainment, but don't let it become a yoke of a bondage to you. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourself be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. So I encourage you. I listen to this music and I reflect on it, and from a point of God in my life. And I want to know that I want to know for myself my relationship with God. I don't need music to help me with it, but I know music is an important element in life. Think about this. The book of Psalms is full of music. So I encourage you as we move forward from here, listen to music, but don't let it be a burden. Don't let it be a yoke to you. I would encourage you to read more of the book of Psalms, as well as live your life to the fullest extent with Christ in it. And we're going to go over again. Next week we'll visit some more pop culture songs and pop culture and see how it has impacted us in our lives even today. Thank you for being with me. Again, subscribe to Life on the Bench. Thank you.